Hello and welcome to Variation 20. It seems like we've hit the halfway mark with Sevcik's 40 variations, but in a way we haven't, because the first half of Sevcik's 40 variations we don't have many sub-variations. In the second half, variations 21 through 40, lots of them have lots of little sub-variations, so it takes a lot longer to get through the second half. This variation introduces Ricochet. Ricochet is one of the bowings that makes bow technique fun. It's a passive bowing, which means the bow more or less does it completely on its own. All we do is give the impulse. Basically, Ricochet is this. It's very easy. You just throw the bow on the string and let it bounce. Do that a few times to get used to the feeling. Don't do anything, just throw the bow on the string. That's basically what Ricochet is. It's strange because we've spent so much time controlling the bow that when you're actually not supposed to control the bow, that takes a bit of getting used to. So practice that. And the next step is to catch it by changing direction. So no longer just throw it on the string to let it bounce, but catch it. Let it bounce, and then change direction to up bow to catch it. Doesn't matter how many bounces you let it bounce at first. Just practice letting it bounce and catch it by changing direction and of course come off of the string. So the next step will be to catch it after 4 bounces. That's this. Practice that on all strings and also practice it with stop notes. That one didn't work. There we go. Practice it with all sorts of notes and practice it in scales. And the next step is to catch it after 3 bounces. And the next step is to catch it after 2 bounces. Now the next step is again to catch it after 2 bounces, but don't completely lift the bow off the string, but let it bounce a second time on the up bow as well. That's this. You throw the bow on the string, catch it after the second bounce, and let it bounce again. Basically, you just give the impulse. You don't do anything else. The bow does it. You give the impulse and you change direction. The bow bounces on its own. Never forget that. When you can do that, then let it bounce 3 times and also let it bounce 3 times on the up bow. I don't do anything. I let it bounce and I change direction and continue to let it bounce. I don't do anything. Same thing with 4. Let it bounce 4 times on the down bow and let it bounce 4 times on the up bow. That might take a bit of getting used to, but as long as you remember not to do anything, just to let the bow bounce, it's actually easy. Very, very important is to keep your shoulder and your arm and your hand relaxed, because sometimes one tends to tense up and then you can't really count them properly, so you don't get the right amount, plus they don't sound if you're tense. You've got to be relaxed. So make sure your shoulder and your arm is relaxed. That's very, very important for Ricochet. The other reason why that's important is if you ever have any length of Ricochet to do, you just won't be able to do it because you'll be stiff. So make sure you stay relaxed. The one thing that makes Ricochet difficult is the fact that because it's a passive bowing, the bow determines the speed. So whatever speed your bow does the Ricochet, that's the speed your left hand has to move. Now in this variation, you're combining Ricochet with spiccato, so the Ricochet determines the speed of the variation and your left hand and your spiccato has to adjust itself to that. Basically, you fit everything around the Ricochet. So what we have is we have 2 bounces on the down bow and 2 bounces on the up bow. I showed in the preparatory exercises, so you should be able to do that already. That's this. So you have, and then you have to play the run at the same speed. So that's the one thing you have to bear in mind. I'd like to suggest a fingering for the run, which I found very helpful. Go into second position on the C already and then play the whole run in second position. That's this. Now go into second position on the C. Play the whole run in second position and then go back down again. The reason this fingering is good is because it's a rhythmical fingering. You don't have the shift somewhere in the middle of the run, but you have the shift before the run and after the run. And also you're only shifting once, so that makes it a bit easier. And make sure you can play the spiccato run at the same speed as you do your ricochet or faster. If you can play it faster, that's easier, then you feel relaxed when you do it at the speed you need to be able to do it at. When you can play the spiccato run, start putting the ricochet and the spiccato together, but take a break before the spiccato run so that you're still separating the two different bowings. That would be like this. Now concentrate, spiccato. And then you have ricochet again. Take a break again. Switch over to spiccato. Basically, I find that very helpful because spiccato is a little bit different. You have a lot more finger action than you have in the ricochet, and spiccato is a half passive bowing. Ricochet is a completely passive bowing. So the difference, you kind of need to switch between the one and the other, and it helps to take a break in between the two to make a conscious switch from one bowing to the other. When you find that comfortable, you can gradually shorten the break so that you then have something like next step obviously is to shorten the break until it is no longer there and you do it basically fluently in one. You're still switching consciously from one to the other, you're just switching faster. So you have ricochet, spiccato. So that's basically the way I practiced the whole variation, gradually shortening the breaks until I didn't need the breaks anymore. Another thing I found helpful for some strange reason which I cannot explain because ricochet is a passive bowing, I found it helpful to actually do it very slowly, which obviously of course makes it no longer passive, in a way to show my bow what to do. So what I did a lot was I think it's probably because it organizes myself in my brain, that I organize myself 2 down bows, 2 up bows, on what string am I doing it, when does the spiccato come, that I do it in such slow motion. I think that's probably the reason why it is helpful. It is not ricochet at that speed because you're actively making the bounces, you're not letting the bow bounce, because if you let the bow bounce, it bounces much faster. So in a way you can't practice ricochet slowly, but you can do something very similar. I found that helpful. If you enjoy this and would like a bit of a challenge, you can also do the whole variation in ricochet. That would be something like this. Practice it on single notes first, that you go, so that you can do that first. That's quite fun. My teacher also made me do it in 4s. I don't know if this will work out now, that's really difficult. Practice that on single notes as well. And then play the whole variation in 4s. That's quite hard, but it's fun. I enjoy this. Hope you enjoyed it too.